Something bad is coming, and we all can feel it. Why is he still lying there? I can feel it coming. I can feel it coming. I can feel it coming. I cannot explain this, an out-of-body experience. I am not replying. Please don't shut it down. I'm stuck in a grim dream. My worst nightmares surrounding me. What a way to end the party. Who's the one to blame? I can feel it coming. 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 Where do they go when they all leave this earth? Once I was told you die for rebirth.
Where do they go when they leave this earth?
Where do they go?
Once I was told we die for rebirth.
For rebirth.
Where do they go when they leave this earth? Once I was told we die for rebirth.
Amazing, amazing. Wow. I'm gonna try to bring some more positivity into this, so apologies. But something bad is coming. We all know. Climate change, I mean, we're losing our glaciers at an unprecedented pace. 40% of the people are now without water in droughts. And our beautiful coral reef, we're losing half of it. So it's pretty depressing. I feel I'm wrapped in this fishing net as well sometimes. And our generation has been bombarded with the message that we must do better. And I think on this stage, we should also recognize that in response to this daunting task that has been given to us, we can do better, and we should. And humans are a pretty inventive species. I mean, we came up with something like ChatGPT. So I'm pretty sure we can solve the mess we've done. And we're also a pretty collaborative species. So if we leverage this talent and resources that we have, we can definitely shift from a very exploitative economy to one that is regenerative, where we respect the nature environment, but also the human beings that live on it. And this is a fateful message, but we must recognize that this climate change problem is going to need different solutions. And I'm sorry for the local people, but it's not only going to be about geothermal and electric cars. We need way more than that. And our job is the one to go around the world and find the most impactful climate solutions out there, to help them scale, get out of the lab, and really make a difference. And we call them the neglected climate opportunities, or the tech you didn't expect. And these solutions are living in different parts of the world. I mean, we have farmers that want to protect their soils. We have young scientists that want to make an impact. And our job is to go find them, help them scale, and make them into reality. And I'm going to give you some examples of maybe what we see and what we have. And I'm going to start with rocks. And I know in this place there's a lot of rocks. I mean, I landed and I've seen basaltic rock everywhere, volcanic rock, and that's actually a very powerful resource. There's some farmers in Brazil that take this rock, add it to their soil as a fertilizer, to not use the nasty chemical fertilizers that are polluting our waters, causing ocean acidification, but also completely degrading the soils. So this rock is then taken and added to the crops, and it gives minerals, it gives fertilization, but also captures a lot of CO2. And there's a couple of locations around the world where we have enough rock where we can capture and mineralize all humans' emissions. So this is a powerful solution. But maybe less exotic, going from Brazil to Colorado, one of the mining state capitals of the world, we found a scientist that has a solution to make mining less polluting. And I think on this stage, we must appreciate that the transition to a green economy is going to require so much material. We're going to need 3 times more the copper that we produce today, 20 times more the nickel, and 40 times more the lithium. So this is a pretty big challenge toward our rapid race to decarbonization. And the scientists in Colorado has found a way to use a less polluting agent to mineralize the CO2 and get as many minerals outside the rock as possible. So we're backing her, and we hope she's really going to make a difference. The third team I want to talk about today is a very young team based in Holland that is tackling one of the most hidden gases, which is methane gas. This is a very short-lived gas, but it's very hot. So it stays in the atmosphere for just a decade, but it's 43 times more polluting and warming than CO2. The methane comes from livestock, comes from landfills, comes from water, hydropower plants, and this team found a way to degas all the water, take the methane, and make it into electricity. We're backing this team as well, and we hope they're gonna change the world. So we have a couple of climate heroes, and if you sometimes need some positivity out of the story, come to us. Ask your neighbor, what's your craziest climate idea? I'm sure they're gonna give you some faith. But also, we must recognize that tech cannot do everything by itself. We need policymakers that back these solutions, that make them scale, that charge the people that are still polluting. We also need a workforce that is now trained for the new jobs that are going to be out there. And I think we finally need some new values of environmental justice, collaboration, and really diversity of the solutions we're having today. So climate change is there, something bad, but I think it's nice to think that we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena, and welcome back. Now, I know many of you are wondering where we are. So let me tell you a little bit about this place. We are at the bottom of the ocean. The further you dive, the pressure intensifies, squeezing every molecule of water around you. Darkness is all around. The temperature drops to near freezing, chilling the water to its core. The landscape here is surreal. Now, my crew has unfortunately gotten lost somewhere along the way, but don't you worry, I'm still here to take care of you. It's going to be fine. Yeah, trust me, it's gonna be totally fine. It's gonna be fine. Yeah. It's gonna be fine. Yeah. It's gonna be fine, guys. It's gonna be fine. Trust me. Trust me, I'm a professional. It's gonna be fine. Yeah, it's gonna be fine. Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. Well, that was close. Just gonna clean up a little bit here. Now, please help me welcome my next visitors, Mark, Moran, Ellen, and Marty. Give them a warm underwater applause.
Got a special chair. Right. See if this one survives. Well, welcome to a little dating game here talking about carbon removals. What is probably one of the fastest growing industries, I think, anywhere in the world in any sector. Somebody described this to me the other day as we need to basically scale this to twice the size of the plastics industry and a tenth of the price of milk in the next 25 years. So it's not an easy ask, but I'm very lucky today to be joined by one fisherman definitely here, and two other experts in the whole world here, or three experts really, in the world of carbon removal. It's got a great panel here today. So, Moran, do you want to kick us off? The quick intro?
Yeah, of course, sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you, first of all, for having me. My name is Moran Chaviv. I'm leading strategic innovation for Microsoft, located in Israel. I'm part of the CTO office, and I'm scouting for exciting or exceptional technologies in area of climate, and specifically in carbon. And also a very proud customer of Running Tide, which we will hear about in a moment. Thank you.
And I'm Ellen. I'm here from Watershed, delighted to be here. As you can see, I think we all, again, have very different interpretations of what it looks like to be on a boat, but working on it. And so Watershed is a company that works with enterprises and large corporates to help them really understand and measure where their emissions are coming from, and then do something about that, either set targets, track reduction plans, and importantly, actually, we also have a marketplace that provides access to carbon removals and highly additional clean power projects. And so also have the opportunity to work with Running Tide through that.
Yeah. I'm Marty. I'm the CEO and founder of Running Tide. We are very proud to call Iceland our operating base, and we have an amazing team here of people 3 rows back. And we use the ocean to remove tremendous amounts of carbon and help restore balance to the ocean ecosystem, hopefully counteracting the effects of climate change to ensure a healthy ocean for the future.
And Marty, as you can tell, by the way, is also a genuine man of the ocean as well. This is what he wears all the time. I've known him for a year, and this is all he hasn't got dressed up. This is not a fancy dress. Ellen, do you want to maybe kick us off with just a bit of way you see the CDR market and how it's framed and how maybe it differs to the normal offset market as well?
Yeah, happy to. And this is what we actually spend a lot of time talking to our companies about, because a lot of what we end up doing is educating them on how to think about carbon removals relative to offsets. And they often kind of get bucketed together, but they're actually quite different. And so as we think about the removals market, I'm sure many kind of know and have heard of these types of technologies, and I know there's been mention of them today, but we often hear about direct air capture as one of the types of carbon removal. It's actually not the only one. Running Tide is a good example of what another option really looks like for us there, and we're seeing a lot of exciting innovation across the CDR market, different types of technologies that can really help companies invest in removing carbon from the atmosphere, very different from offsets, where it's saying I'm actually going to pay for someone not to emit, which is a slightly different type of model.
I mean, one of the key things about this whole market, though, is actually that there's this wide variety of technologies. And one of the challenges that presents, opportunities, I guess, for some people, but one of the challenges is how do we measure it? And how do we actually really understand and can verify that actually what this is? I mean, I think it's one of the great advantages of DAC is that it's very easy. You've got a flow valve, great, that's how much carbon we got. Marty, you've got more of a challenge though with this in terms of actually educating people about actually how to measure and really think about the actual carbon capture that goes on here. Do you want to maybe take us through how you guys do it? Because I know you're pretty exceptional at this.
Sure. Yeah. Earth-scale problems need Earth-scale solutions. In order to get at an Earth-scale solution, you have to engage with the Earth system. And the Earth system is kind of like a messy, chaotic, wild thing, especially the ocean. The running tide solution is to make little buoys like this, and to spray kelp spores on them, drop them in the ocean. They float around and then sink to the deep ocean. Pretty simple, right? It's like you make a cookie, and millions of them, and set them free, and they grow a little garden on them, and they sink. But in order to really measure that to the satisfaction of a customer like Microsoft, who wants like a high degree of diligence, and to make sure that everything we're doing is super kosher and improves the ocean health, we have to measure kind of almost every little parameter we can in the ocean. And how we do that, so you have to, we're trying to manipulate this massive Earth system, but in order to do that effectively, you have to measure very small. So at Running Tide, we make all sorts of little sensors, and I brought them up in my nice little backpack here. Here's one of them. We drop these in the ocean alongside our little cookies, and these float around and measure the physical attributes of the ocean as they're floating through. Then we have another one. Wait, let me find it.
This is a big bag, by the way.
It's a big bag. All sorts of goodies in here. I got it. Look at that. And then, this is another one, and this is this can measure actually the surface roughness of the ocean, which can tell us how quickly the atmosphere equilibrates with the surface layer of the ocean. So this is a little tiny computer that's floating out in the ocean and sends us information through the satellite. And so in real time, like right now, we have a deployment going out in the North Atlantic, and we're able to see kind of all sorts of biogeochemical parameters that our buoys are encountering, and we can use that to create some models around what effect we're having on the ocean system. We have a whole bunch of other sensors that you can't see here because they're too big, but they have cameras on them, so we can actually watch things grow and watch things dissolve in the ocean, the minerals that people have talked about before.
I think we need a live stream of that, by the way.
What'd you say?
We need a live stream of that.
Yeah, we have it. Where's Phil? Yeah. He has it. And by connecting, and then on top of that, we have labs where we mimic the offshore environment. So between measuring out in nature, in situ measurement, in the lab, and then we can connect it with these models, we're able to give like a high resolution, like high certainty on what's happening around our intervention in the ocean, and then provide that data package to our customers, and at their satisfaction, they pay us for the positive result that comes out of it.
That's cool. It's a lot of science going on there, and a lot of learning that has to happen to really understand what that actually means. I mean, Moran, I think Microsoft is the leader in this space, and let's be honest here. You've done some amazing work. How did you get your organization, or how has Microsoft been on this journey to understand CDR, and particularly end up investing in Marty and those amazing bits of technology?
So it's a long story.
We have 12 minutes.
But I think the good news, before I start to tell the summary, is that we are very transparent about our journey. We have many reports that we are publishing with everything, with what we are looking for, how we are measuring, what's the science behind the things, who are we consulting with. And we really think that this is really needed for others to learn from, right? Because we are doing a lot of things for the first time, and we're trying to learn from that. We're collaborating with many scientists all over, and also with many entrepreneurs that also trying themselves to try to better understand how can they measure, what's the right verification method, what's the right registry area that we need to do it. So we are actually publishing all of that. So first of all, I wanted to put it here because I think it's a great resource, and we already see many are using it. I don't know if you know, Microsoft was actually committing to be carbon negative by 2030 and returning all our historical emission by 2050. It's a big, like if you know data centers, you know it's a big mission. And yes, definitely we need to reduce it, but a lot of it is going to be removed because we have time. And in 2030, which we have seven more years, we will need to remove many tons of CO2, and we need those markets. We need supply of this CO2. And in order to make supply, we need to have a market, right? It's not enough to have a demand. We need to make sure that we have them for really duration and it's high scale, high volume credits, or sorry, removal, CDRs. And what we are basically doing, that we are working with innovative and pioneering solution to solve for that, but we are also, on the other hand, investing a lot in policymakers to make sure that they are also putting some more money into those countries or into regulations to grow this ecosystem, because otherwise the market will not exist. I'm sure that you can share more about that. And one more last thing to say is that I'm sure that Ellen can say more about that. One more last thing to say is that it's not only working with scientists and with policymakers and with the entrepreneurs and pioneers in this area, but it's also working with our suppliers, because Scope 3 is 96% of our emissions. If our suppliers will not start to remove their emission out there and will not understand how to manage their portfolio, how to measure it, what they want to remove, have a strategy for long years of how they are going to remove those, it will not happen. So it's speaking with the CFOs and the chief sustainability officer, if they have, or whoever it is over there, to make sure that they are doing it, because otherwise we will not be able to make it. And also, if they're going to make it and they will have a portfolio, we also grow the market. So it's like the circle of things that we're doing.
There's a huge amount you guys doing. I think you condensed it very well there. There's two things just to really like to pick up on there, and I think first is interesting around the transition from necessarily always being the chief sustainability officer to often being a CFO, actually being a key stakeholder here. And then I think the second part is that every single net zero company out there, or company that's intended to be net zero, is going to have to get into the removals game, whether they like it or not. And we know with this market, it's really bizarre sitting here going, we know what this market's going to be. We know what scale it needs to get to. And that's sort of twice the size of the plastics industry. We know that's reality, and that's frankly a minimum probably as well, given current trajectory. And then how are you educating your clients? Because there is this incredible journey, and I think there's also a really interesting dynamic where this market is evolving in a way which is, can be challenging. And we know where it needs to get to, but there's a long way to go until we do get there. So how do you guys approach it, Watershed?
Well, we think about it in terms of kind of, as we talk to our customers, the reality is that for most of them, they don't have the large sustainability teams that a company like Microsoft has. And so there is often a lack of understanding, both in terms of what is the market landscape, how do I think about that, how do I engage in it. It can be quite an intimidating step to take, and so a lot of our role is both helping them understand that and then actually do something practical about it. And the conversation has very much shifted to the office of the CFO, and I actually am very excited about that, because that is where the money is, that is where the driver is, and then if you're able to speak to that kind of personality and say, look, you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do this for a few reasons, either because your customers are asking you to have a net zero program, your regulator is telling you have to have a net zero program, your investors, there's a lot of investors in this room, are telling you that you need to have a net zero program, and that needs to be credible. And what credible means is you can't offset that entire footprint. You need to invest in carbon removals. And by the way, it's good to do that now, because that's helping you risk mitigate into the future. And so much of our conversation has shifted to that kind of narrative. I think that's very exciting and important. I think that's actually going to hopefully mean that there's many more companies that, again, may not be at the scale or size of Microsoft, but that are starting to think about their budgets and being able to invest in companies like Running Tide and removal credits, sometimes for the first time. But it is that education bit, both in terms of where the market is going and why it's actually good for business for them to do this now versus kicking the can down the road.
It does raise an interesting thing there, which is you say we know this is, well, it's sold out now. I mean, Marty, you're sold out already. You've got this really interesting challenge of how are you scaling and what are you actually, what are the steps that you need to take to get to an incredible level of scale very rapidly? You want to maybe just talk us through quickly how the steps Running Tide's doing to approach that?
Well, yeah, I mean, so we are, we have a saying that we use at Running Tide, cross the river by feeling the stones. So, making incremental steps, taking small risks, learning from them, and then taking the next step. The key for rapidly scaling is not taking giant steps, it's just taking a lot of small steps really quickly. So try to make a small step, learn from it, collect the data with all of our research partners around the world, and then take the next step quickly and keep moving. And letting the data that we're gathering off all of our systems guide us. At the same time, we're operating in the ocean system, and as everyone can tell from the wind around here, the ocean's a big, scary place, and so it's hard to do anything small. You have to kind of do things at a certain scale to even do it safely. So one of the really interesting things about the ocean is it's massive, and as we proceed, we're going to be able to scale very rapidly. And hopefully be the biggest carbon remover in the world. I think that's definitely possible for Running Tide, and we'll let our data gather, or let the data we gather guide us through that process. But I can see great scale as we take these incremental steps, moving up that exponential curve that we always talk about.
And you're live here in Iceland already as well, aren't you? I mean,
We
from
are.
a year ago when we first met a year ago, and you were like, it's out there. It seems to be getting much closer though now, isn't it?
Yep, it's operations are live. We've got the live stream coming back of the data, and our team is literally making adjustments as we speak on how we're going to make the next step a little bit bigger and a little bit better and a little bit get a little bit more performance out of the system. So it's Ocean CDR is happening, and it's I foresee it growing to pretty massive scale in the next 5 to 10 years. I see it.
It needs to. It really does need to. So
yeah, we have no
the more we
choice.
can do, the better. And Ellen, with the there's an interesting piece here though, which is it's also attracting lots of different types of finance as well. Actually, from you as well, Moran, is that there are the sort of corporates that are ahead of the game, particularly technology companies that are investing. There are some of the earlier stage investors. We're seeing things like obviously Frontier, advanced market commitments, and how that's coming through as well. It's obviously going to need all of them. But what are you seeing as where are you seeing with your clients the attractions that are coming at the moment, and what's almost your wish for the sort of categories or sectors which would start to embrace CDR more?
Yeah, well, all of them is the short answer. Well, I think it's what I'm encouraged by there is actually, again, coming back to what's driving this forward. A lot of what I think we want to see more of, because I think it's going to get more of those industries actually getting involved, is companies talking more about their portfolios and what they're doing in the space. Again, I think that the work from Microsoft, and I think we just heard the JP Morgan announcement recently as well, and the likes of Stripe and Shopify really investing in the space. The reality is they're leaders in their market, and so what happens there is if they kind of take that step, we often see then the follow-on effect with many of our corporates saying, oh, we see what they're doing, we want to get involved. And they may only be dipping their toe in initially. That's okay, as long as it's sort of starting that ball turning to invest in this more and more. And so a lot of the work we do is actually reducing that barrier to entry and saying, look, you don't have to go out and map the whole market and have an expert internally in order to get involved. We can kind of help you navigate that market. But I do think in order to do that, more companies across really the answer to your question, every industry, starting to talk about what they're doing in this space is very helpful. So the transparency piece is very important. I think it actually reduces a lot of that fear. Companies can be scared often of taking the first step of being the leader, especially in a space where the technology is evolving so rapidly. And so I do think some of that leadership is actually going to be really critical in getting industries across the board to start to invest here.
Right. I totally agree with you, and I will add one more point, is that actually think about it. If we're working with our suppliers, which are all over the world, and we're assisting them to build their portfolio, this is a big push into this market. So we're taking all those industries that's supporting us, and we're assisting them to find and plan till 2030 how they're going to have a portfolio for CDRs. This is a big move that Microsoft is doing. I think that every company that takes that should do that. And then we're starting to cover the scope 3 in that direction and from the CDR. Yeah.
I mean, I mean, it's getting the full complexities of Scope 3. We're definitely going to blow through the time limit. But as I say, in terms of what do you see as the unlocks to actually get this market? I mean, there's the classic, what I call the sort of valley of death type moment as well. Microsoft's playing a transformational role in a huge degree. What do you see as some of the other unlocks, and what would be your hope for what this market can be, or should do over the next 5 years, 7 years, let's say, by 2030?
Well, first of all, for us, we want to have, we want to, till 2030, reduce our emission by 50% and being able to remove, not offset, remove all the others, and as I said, to start to remove history. So I hope to have enough supply to actually do it, right? We need to have enough supply, enough high-quality projects to be able to do that, and for that we need to invest now, because otherwise we will not have enough supply, not for us and not for others. So this is, I think, the main challenge. We need enough entrepreneurs, we need enough projects to actually take it. We definitely need more customers or more companies to decide that they are doing that, and more regulations. Because we see now with the anti-inflation Bidens, right, they're also putting more money into CDRs. So we are hoping that this money will actually bring more companies and more supply into this. But I hope this answers the question.
It's changing things rapidly.
Yeah.
It's definitely doing that. Ellen, for you as well, what are the unlocks you would like to see in the next 10 years?
I think it is that more companies start doing this. And so companies really of all sizes, and not just the biggest companies in the world. I think that's going to be really important. If we think about the world's emissions, actually 40% of them are made up from listed companies. Imagine if all of those companies started investing in carbon removal. That buying power to kind of help feed the supply is very powerful. But it needs to start happening now so we can unlock the supply that Ron is describing for the future.
I mean, I think to your point, I just hope there's enough supply. This is crazy market demand, supply going on. Marty, how about for you as well? So what's the next 7 years going to be? Where's Running Tide in 7 years' time?
So I sometimes call climate Godzilla because it's destroying everything. So we need a King Kong to kill Godzilla. So I hope Running Tide's the King Kong. So I need bananas.
And we should do some t-shirts. Let's do t-shirts as well. Excellent. I'd just like to say a very big thank you to 3 excellent panelists. So thank you very much. And anyone interested in CDL, please come have a word with them. We need to scale this quickly.
Thank
So
you.
Thank you,
Marty.
So, my final visitor has arrived. She is a true visionary, an academic rock star. Straight from the Netflix documentary Planetary Boundaries, please welcome Lisen.
So this is how I dress when I go sailing. And I think that we are actually sailing together now. It's a navigation that needs to happen. With collaboration, we need to take good care of the resources we have on the boat. And we have a shared direction for our journey. And I think it is to secure our home in the universe, the only home we have, which is pictured here to my left, the biosphere, this thin layer of life around the planet that we are part of. And at the Stockholm Resilience Center, we bring together scientists from the natural and social sciences, and we work together with change makers in business, policy, local communities across the world to understand how we can secure this home. And how we can do that in a situation where we have become a dominant force of change on the planet. It's so dominant, this force that we are as humanity, that geologists have named this epoch the Anthropocene for mankind. Business is, of course, a key driver of change on this planet, a key reason to why we're in the Anthropocene, but therefore also a key driver of solutions. So what I will do is to first establish why we work so hard on this mission. And I think we all share this, but I think the message that came from the IPCC last year in their latest report was so strong that the scientific evidence is unequivocal and that climate change is a threat to both the ecosystem's health and our well-being, and also that the window to secure a livable future is closing. That's really strong words to come from science. And what we do now, this generation, people in this room, will shape the conditions for all life on Earth, including ourselves, for thousands of years to come. The future is in our hands. And we do not only emit greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, as we've heard many times today. And I think these graphs are so telling. It's showing the effects of the great acceleration that began in the 1950s, where we can see the socioeconomic trends coupled with the Earth system trends. And we can see that we not only emit greenhouse gases, but we flow nitrogen and phosphorus into the coastal zones and the lakes, causing algae blooms. We are cutting down forests. We are using more and more fresh water, adding pollution, and so on. And all of this is massive, and we need to handle it. And then you can ask, what do we actually know about this planet that we inhabit and that we're now such a big force of change on? Well, we're only now beginning to understand this as a one system, a self-regulating system, where the oceans and the glaciers and the North and South Pole ice and the forest and the wetlands and the ocean currents and the atmospheric currents are all coming together in a dynamic way, interacting with all life on Earth to create a very stable climate that we've been lucky to have for the past 10,000 years, which has allowed us to develop civilizations and cities and impact investments and business and science and music and all of these beautiful things. But we've now also discovered that some of these areas on the planet and these self-regulating systems are approaching tipping points beyond which they might not create this stable environment anymore, but actually start accelerating the warming and the change. And the planetary boundaries concept was developed to provide a holistic picture of these pressures that we put on the planet that is rooted in the Earth system science. So they help us expand from this carbon tunnel vision that we've been stuck in and define a safe operating space within which humans can thrive and business can thrive. And we can do that without then triggering those tipping points that I mentioned. And the planetary boundaries don't tell us what the solutions are. They also don't tell us where the drivers come from, what economic activities we need to act on. But they give us science-based analysis of the urgency of the situation, the severity of the situation, and where we need to prioritize our work. And if we believe that consumer demand and regulations will actually follow when we see these threats towards humanity, then I think the planetary boundaries give you a good hint of where that will go and a framework for innovation. And so far, 9 boundaries have been identified, and 6 of them have now been transgressed, which means that we are in very risky terrain, and that we need solutions from all of you to take us back into the safe operating space. And biosphere integrity or climate change, of course, results from greenhouse gas emissions. CO2 also causes ocean acidification, which is one of the other boundaries. Biosphere integrity means healthy and biodiverse ecosystems that we're now losing. Land system change means the conversion of land into cropland and also the loss of forests. Novel entities means chemical pollution. And then we also have the biogeochemical flows, which are nitrogen and phosphorus that I mentioned, coming mainly from agriculture. Ozone depletion and freshwater use and novel, and let's see, because there is actually a net here, so I can't see my text. And it's so many boundaries to keep track of, right? So air pollution, ozone depletion, and freshwater are the 3 other boundaries. And here we've transgressed the green water boundary, which is water available to plants. So it's either too dry or too wet for many plants today, because we've changed the water cycles. And these planetary boundaries also interact. So, for example, improving the land use boundary and restoring land ecosystems would decrease nutrient leakage, mitigate biodiversity loss and climate change. And halting the leakage of novel entities, this chemical pollution, into the biosphere would improve ocean health, water and air quality, as well as land ecosystems, and this in turn would have positive effects on the climate. So, helping humanity back into the safe operating space that the planetary boundaries define should be our main business opportunity, and doing that while we secure that we can meet the needs of all people on this planet. And the good news is that the window is still open, as the IPCC said. We also know pretty much what we need to do. And the recipe overall, as we've heard today, is to leave the fossil fuel-driven, exploitative, linear economy behind and move towards one that's run by renewable energy, that's circular, and that actually restores and regenerates both ecosystems and society. And we need to make this shift in the energy system, of course, as you can see on this graph of where the emissions come from, and in industry and transport and buildings, but also in the agriculture and forestry sector and the way we manage our lands. We need to use the remaining carbon budget really wisely, not use it all up in 7 years and then try to drop it to zero, but rather follow the carbon law, which is about halving emissions every decade. And that's, of course, about the reducing we heard, but it's also about removing, so shifting agriculture from a source to a sink, and also repairing, maintaining those ecosystems that have so far actually absorbed half of the emissions we have caused up until today. So they are our best friends. We need to start collaborating with them. You've all seen these different graphs of how cost projections and also adoption, these projections always fail because once these innovations have gained momentum, they grow so much faster than we can ever imagine. We can also see that for the first halving, we actually have the solutions in sector after sector to do the first, what we need to do the first decade. And in the meantime, we can innovate so that we can do the second halving. But I also want to end on the note that real transformation requires us not only to develop these radical innovations that will take us into the future, but also to start dismantling the systems that are no longer fit for purpose. Part of those systems that we have today are worth conserving, so there is work that needs to go into that as well. And then there are some innovations that are feasible today, and they will take us as a stepping stone towards the future, but they will be left behind once the most viable solutions actually take off. So it's good to think, I think, through this framework, where are you operating, and to make sure that we use the strategies we need. I would say that the shift towards sustainability and our journey on the sailing is getting there, but it's way too slow. So we need to accelerate, and everyone in this room is needed in that journey. We've heard some positive signs now from policy and from tech in the morning, but these need to come together and also take that more holistic approach. So what can we do then? I think we can all in this room ask one fundamental question, which is, will this company or this investment actually serve human needs within the planetary boundaries? And how we do that, I will go through more with you if you come and meet me at 2 p.m. for the workshop Planetary Boundaries for Capitalists. Thank you so much for your attention.
Well, that's it. We hope to see you all here back next year. Please tell your friends about this little startup I have going on here. We'd always love more guests. Those who fit in and those who don't. Those with crazy ideas and those willing to make them happen, both underwater and above the surface. And remember, the oceans are important. They impact weather patterns. They shape what lives, where it lives, and what sort of land it lives on. They regulate our climate. They feed us, and they generate most of the oxygen that we breathe. Maybe this was an interval in time to pose questions about who we are and where we are headed. What are we going to do tomorrow? And what are we going to do not tomorrow, but the day after that? And what responsibilities do we, who know what is happening, have to bear?
Dance floor is sickening, babe, but I ain't got another solution.
Just a minute and I dance and the door, I gotta move. So thrilling, so thrilling. Ooh, what a living, just something to die for. Ooh, it's a killing, a killing. Doomsday,
Dancing through the dark,
pump up the pretense.
there's nothing wrong. Dancing on the floor, keep it moving,
till you can move more.
dancing through the door, there's nothing wrong. Dancing on the floor. Hot shots of history, twist and turn their mystery until we swallow their truth. I'll tell you this, we ain't got much, but we got till noon. Move your feet to the beat of impending doom.